There's been a lot of chatter about fintech this entire week, right? We've had India's biggest fintech fest. You've had UPI now coming out with an auto pay feature. You've had Nandan Nilekani talking about an open credit system to totally democratize it. The next step you can actually have after Aadhaar and Jandhan and UPI. You've had Amazon Pay talking about using voice for insurance distribution. WhatsApp wanted to take UPI overseas and get into micro lending. You've also, of course, seen all those big deals of Jio, and in fact, JioMart is now on Google. So where does this leave the Indian entrepreneurs in the Indian startup universe? It's very well to say that we've got digital highways, which are the most advanced in the world, but are the biggies going to squeeze out the Indian startups? And that's something I thought I would ask BharatPe. And I've got the founder here with me. Ashni, thanks so much for joining us here on this edition of Startup Central. I want you to honestly tell us, it's a fantastic moment for India. You're talking about Google putting in $10 billion. You've got, literally the who's who of the tech world looking at India, zeroing in, big bucks, big plans, Indian fintech being celebrated. But does that bother the Indian startup universe? Are they scared that हमारा क्या होगा? ये सब तो आ गए.
No, I don't think it was that easy. I think capital cannot basically outpace innovation, right? So all the moves that you've seen is in some form more capital being committed to India right now, whether it is capital being attracted by Jio or any of these bigger tech companies committing more capital to fintech business in India. It's more capital coming in for sure, right? But I still believe, end of the day, the merchant or the customer goes by the better proposition, right? And the business will flow where there is a better proposition. So, I think the way I think about it is in fact reverse, right? All the Amazons and Googles and Paytm, Phone Pays, Geos of the world have to now deliver, right? None of them can say they didn't have the capital to deliver in India, right? So the ball's in their court. And I think, the spotlight is on them on whether they can make their capital count. As far as we are concerned, it's as exciting a space as always. We feel even more excited about the space because post-COVID, we've seen transaction value go up 25% over pre-COVID, right? And that is with markets still in lockdown. So when the markets actually come back, what the new high is going to be is something which is really exciting us, and we're looking forward to it.
So your transaction values are up 25%. You've had the Indian government actually send report cards to banks saying that they've already beaten the year's target. You're talking about 1 billion transaction a day, at least according to the NPCI by 2025. Ashni, what kind of a market are you trying to corner? Because what has also happened, I feel, in the recent past, and maybe because of the lockdown, everyone is going for a very similar merchants, right? The Kirana stores, everybody wants same day delivery, and maybe it is because of COVID.
Yeah. So Nayantara, I think you're absolutely right. It seems like the Kirana has become the new holy grail, right? And everyone is going after them. We were the first ones to actually go after this segment way back in 2018. And we are very clear on what we are doing. We are here to provide financial services to small businesses, offline businesses, Kiranas, whatever you want to call them. And we want to focus on the capital side, which is essentially giving them lending, right? And that's the market we are going after. Now, depending on which study you believe in, that's a $500 billion gap market, right? It will take at least 250 companies like BharatPe to fill that market up, right? So I believe the opportunity is great. In lending, you're not competing with anyone else, right? You're always competing with yourself and your ability to underwrite and good credit and bad credit. And that's what we are focusing on, right? Our internal systems, how well we underwrite, how big a lending company we transform into rather than being seen as a payment company. That's the focus, and I think there's enough, headroom, legroom, whatever you call it, for anyone who's doing lending in India, especially with the small businesses. Because think of it this way: all the larger businesses are equity funded, right? No one is going to give the kirana equity, right? And therefore, the true capital that he needs is lending capital, and that's what we are in the market to provide.
But tell me something that you're doing. So you're saying that the market is so large, it's a $500 billion opportunity literally. So it doesn't matter whether there is Ashni Grover in BharatPe, or if there is an Amazon, or if there is a Jio, or there is a Google, or if there is a WhatsApp, because, or a Paytm, because everybody wants to do the same thing. Suddenly, it was maybe you started it, but the fact is now everybody wants to do it, right?
Absolutely. I think everyone wants to do it, but the approach is very different, right? We are approaching it from the merchant first and merchant only angle, right? All we care about is how can we give more capital to our merchant for him to do more business. Everyone else is just approaching the merchant from a very different angle, saying, I have the consumer, I want to close the loop with the merchant. Now, what does that closing the loop with the merchant mean for the merchant incrementally? No one has an answer today, right? So, is a Google Pay going to give loans? Yes, sometime in the future, but what are they doing about it, or how are they going to go about it? No answers today. So, I think, I feel the market is all about being focused, right? And we are very, very clearly focused. Last 3 months, we have not changed our focus. We have not gone to to the consumer side, or we have not started selling grocery overnight, right? Just because the market wanted to be. We're still focused on providing quality, easy, cheap credit to the merchant, and that business is not going anywhere or is not being cornered by anyone.
And tell me something, and I'll make this my final question. It's heartening to hear that you've stuck to it. You've figured it all out. You've not taken some of those measures a lot of people have had to take, get into delivery or hand sanitizers or masks and all of that. But Ashneer, collections, was that a big problem during lockdown, and has that forced you to reimagine BharatPe at all? Because everybody's under stress, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, see, here's the thing. The market is the lending market. I see the lending market in two phases, right? One is pre-COVID and the other is post-COVID. Luckily for us, pre-COVID, we had just about started lending, right? So it's a very good but hard lesson for us to learn on how to collect things when singular events like COVID happen, right? And it will get hardwired into us for the future. A lot of the lending companies find themselves on the wrong side of the cycle, right? So if you've already given out $200 million and you have like 30-40% non-collection, you're in like deep trouble, right? Like there's no denying it. And I think that's where most of the market finds it. That's where most of the NBFCs find themselves. For us, it's just been lucky timing, right? We just about started our business. The good thing is, post-COVID loans are back to 98, 99 kind of collection levels, right? Pre-COVID loans, which were down to 20% collection levels sometime in April, are now inching up to the 65 to 70%, right? So of course there's going to be pain, and the whole lending business is about your ability to take a pain. If you can't take the risk, or if you can't collect your money back, don't get into this business. It's not the payments business, right? It's not risk free. It is risk, right? And therefore it is your ability to handle that risk. But I feel going forward, the market which has got created because of COVID and digital adoption would mean digital lending will boom, right? So it's a great cycle to enter. A wrong cycle if you find yourself on the wrong side of it.
So with that, Ashneer, wishing you all the very best. Thank you so much for being candid and for joining us here on this edition of Startup Central. It's a week that really, a lot of the headlines have gone to the global giants, and we said, let's get an Indian entrepreneur, let's get an Indian startup who is in the, who started out lending and in fintech. So with that, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show.
Thanks, Nandita. Thank you.